In ancient times there lived a righteous and kind man named Ayub. Ayub was very rich. However, he worked alongside his farmers and workers and always thanked God for the blessings he had given him and helped the poor. That is why he was chosen by God to be a prophet. One day the devil turned himself into a human being and said to the people, "Oh people, do you know why Ayub always thanks God?" "No, we don't know," people said. Shaitan said, "It is because of the great wealth that God has given him. If he loses his wealth, he will no longer worship God." At that moment, some of the people lost their faith and were deceived by the devil and said, "You are right. From now on, we will listen to you." Shaitan went to heaven and said to God, "If I had permission, I would have proved it to all your servants. Ayub is only thankful for his wealth." A message came from God. "We know our servant better, but O Shaitan, we give you the permission to try Ayub." The next day, the devil inflicted a terrible disease on the flocks of Prophet Ayub's sheep, and all of Prophet Ayub's sheep died in less than a day. He then pretended to be a stranger and reported the death of the sheep to Prophet Ayub. And Prophet Ayub turned to heaven and said to his Lord, "I have no complaints, and I thank you." Shaitan, who heard Prophet Ayub's words, became angry and said to those around him, "He can buy a lot of sheep by selling his product. Obviously he's not upset. It doesn't matter to him." Then he said to himself, "I need to prove that he's a bad person." It was the middle of the night when the devil went to the garden of Prophet Ayub and set the whole garden on fire. The next morning he went to Prophet Ayub's house and said, "Ayub, why are you standing here calmly? Don't you know that last night your beautiful garden caught fire and its trees turned to ashes?" Prophet Ayub did not look shocked or worried. He turned to the sky and said, "Oh great God, I thank you again." The devil said, "You mean you aren't upset at all?" Prophet Ayub replied, "This garden was God's trust that he took back from me. Why should I be upset?" Because of this, Shaitan's anger increased, and he said to himself, "I'm going to make you cry from morning till night." Then he killed all the children of Prophet Ayub by unleashing a mountain of rock and rubble onto them. Then he hurried to Prophet Ayub's house and said, "Oh Ayub, your family has died." Prophet Ayub said to God, "Great God, life and death are in your hands. You gave me my children, and now you have taken them back. That's why I can never thank you enough for your blessings." One of Shaitan's minions said, "Ayub is indeed a good servant of God. He worships God and is grateful to him. Although he has lost all his wealth and has become poor and destitute, and all of his children have died, he still thanks God. I'm not going to obey you anymore. I have believed in Ayub and his message. Fine, leave, but you will soon see that I was right." Then he said to himself, "It turns out that he can buy a garden again and start farming. But if he loses health, he will no longer thank God." The next day, when Prophet Ayub woke up, he was seriously ill. When his wife began to treat him, Shaitan, who had transmitted the disease to Prophet Ayub himself, gathered the people in front of Prophet Ayub's house and said, "Look, Ayub has a dangerous disease. If he stays in this town, we will all get the disease. He must leave the city." 7 years passed. One day the devil appeared in Prophet Ayub's hut and said, "How are you now? Do you still thank God?" Prophet Ayub said, "Shaitan, go away. I will thank God no matter what happens to me." Then he turned to heaven and said, "Oh great God, I only seek refuge in you, who is great and kind." He was immediately inspired by God. "Oh Ayub, you are a good and patient servant. Tap your feet on the ground so that clear, refreshing water comes out of it. Drink water from it and wash your body with it." Prophet Ayub tapped his feet on the ground, and a moment later, water started coming out. When Prophet Ayub drank from it and washed his body, all the wounds on his body healed at once, and he became young again. The devil, seeing everything, cried out and disappeared. When Prophet Ayub's wife returned from the city, she did not recognize him, but when she learned of the story, she was overjoyed. By God's command, all of Prophet Ayub's children were resurrected. His gardens became green, and everything he had was returned to him. Prophet Ayub prophesied for many years and lived happily ever after.